look like a fool on camera?
Okay.
Tony, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Welcome back to Times Farm Channel 3 Country Camp. And Angie.
Angie.
You've met Judy Burnham?
Yes, we have.
Yeah. She's our first female president.
I was told it was a Miss Burnham used to run this camp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She knew nothing about that.
We have some pictures in the office.
In the office. Yeah.
Elizabeth Ayers.
Yeah.
And then there's also a picture of Mrs. Freeman.
Yeah.
Alma Freeman, from which the Almada Lodge took its name.
Well, Mrs. Ayers was instrumental in bringing the Freemans to that.
I thought that was
Okay.
the
time.
Yeah, that was the relationship.
And
well,
my father worked for Mrs. Ayers. That's how I got to know her.
Okay.
That's how we got
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Well, in 1924, Tony, what was there as far as facilities? You had the old farmhouse.
Yeah, the old farmhouse, and we had tents.
Yeah.
Tents on that side for the boys, and tents over here for the boys.
Right.
How many campers did you have back then?
Well, there was 2 trucks came out from the Hartford Times. I think there was 30.
Those were newspaper trucks?
Oh yeah, the Hartford Times. They delivered papers in the morning,
Okay.
in the afternoon, and they used the trucks to bring us out. They put benches in,
Yeah.
and then we sit in the back of the bench. We never
Amazing.
saw.
And
We didn't know anything about it.
How long did you stay on each camp?
Came out by truck, and I say they greeted us here. There wasn't. In fact, the first year I was here, I think they put the well in, the artesian well.
Okay.
I remember them putting that in. And,
I know one gentleman told me that the well served at one point as the only refrigeration.
I would believe that. Sure.
And he told me a story about how they raised the old milk can
Yeah.
with a rope from the handles. One day somebody tied the rope to the lid, and they lowered it in, and of course dropped the whole can of milk into the well, which contaminated it. And then they drew water from the river and used water from the river. Of course, in those days, where the water was pure and no
Oh,
pollution
that's
problems.
right. We used to build a dam out of stone because there was no dam there. We'd get all the rocks and we'd build it up.
Okay, and that was the old
That
swimming
was the
hole.
old swimming hole. That's right.
And that's where
There was a
little
Doris
party
Hutchinson. She's
came
still
out
in
here.
town here.
Doris
She was a
still lives on Route
Yeah,
6,
her,
and
that's right.
and Doris has done a history of
she
the
was.
camp. Yeah, she
She
wrote
was
a
about
history.
18 or 20 when I first. She was one of the cooks.
She met her husband here.
John. Yeah,
John. She
that's
met
right.
John here. John was here on a date, and the
Yeah.
girl took off. So he said, "Well, what the heck? I'll take Doris out."
That's
But
nice.
she's about the only one I remember way
Yeah.
back. And of course, then when my children grew up, we moved to Andover just on account of the Times Farm. We bought land down by the Hop River down
This
here.
is where he courted me. This is where we got engaged.
This is
right
where we-
there. I got a nice picture home of the both of us.
Down
yeah.
on the river.
Right by the river.
Right by the dam
Yeah.
there, yeah.
I wonder when the gazebo. I don't have.
1930 or 1931, somewhere in
Okay.
there. I remember
So
when
you
they put-
remember it as a camper. You
Oh,
remember
yeah.
the gazebo.
Yeah, I remember when that
And
went up.
I know Latham Howard used to
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me that when the gazebo went up, that was, of course, a big, big thing, because prior to that, there was no protection as far as rain. If people were down in that area
You had
and it
no place
rained,
to
there was
go,
no
that's
place to
right.
get in out of the rain.
Yeah, and then there was a brick building here. I don't think anybody remembers that. There was a brick building over on that side of the road. There apparently was a factory or something at one time.
Is that right?
And
I never heard of that.
See?
no, I remember that. They used to keep the black children in there for some. They segregated them at that time. I don't know why. but-
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there would be bats in there, and you could hear the children screaming at night sometimes.
Okay.
Bats.
Oh, was that part of the barn that was over there? or-
No barn there. I don't remember.
Okay, that was the building that you
That was the
remembered as a
building-
brick
as a brick
building.
building, yeah.
And of course, the foundation is still there.
That's
The stonework is still
It was a
there.
red brick building.
Well, I had been told, was it a
great.
pretty good size?
Oh yes.
Because I was told that that building housed the animals, and the Almada Lodge was the what would be the blacksmith's residence, the old Almada Lodge.
Remember that?
I don't remember
And
that.
he served as, of course, this
He's
would have
got a
been
good
back
memory.
before the 1900s.
No, I don't remember that. I don't.
But
That's
it,
a little before my time.
in other words, he was the blacksmith serving the entire industrial community,
Oh, is
which
that so?
which was the toy factory here on the camp, then upstream the old grist mill, and then downstream the paper mill.
You had to eat your meals completely. No leftovers,
Okay.
nothing left on the table. And I hated stewed prunes with a vengeance. And you couldn't leave them on your plate, so I put them in my pocket.
Good plan.
Soggy good prunes in my pocket. Then when I got outside, I throw them. But I never forgot that.
He was always telling me that.
So what are some of the other worthwhile experiences that you recall, Tony? Something that might have contributed to your...
Well, I say we had a sort of camaraderie with other boys and girls. We never forgot them. Most of them came to camp with us 3 or 4 times during the lifetime, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd usually meet them in the following years as you went along.
Great.
And like I say, we were all underweight, most of us. We all seemed to put on the weight when we got here. And I remember we used to get prizes for being a good camper. At the end of your 2 weeks, you came into the house, and Miss Burnham she'd have a list of the stars that you got.
Okay.
And she'd reach up in the cupboard over the fireplace, and you either got a flashlight or some kind of a book or something for a prize, you know.
The end of the world. I lived
City,
in Hartford,
Sure.
and I thought,
Yeah.
where is he taking
Okay.
me? You know? That's how far out I thought we came. But
That's great.
Then there was a Mr. Randall that ran the farm down here. And I remember him, you'd walk along the brook and he'd be sitting there in a big chair, you know, because he was probably 80 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
As you walked along, all of a sudden you came upon him sitting in that chair, and he looked like the devil himself. Long beard.
Well, I understand he owned the whole area. I
He
guess
did at one time,
you know, including all of the homes that are, all of that land was the Randall farm.
But